Hello, fourth grade. This is Mrs. Kite here, and we're going to go through day 1 and day 2 of the content in packet number 5. So on day 1, we talked about Confederate Virginia. The learning opportunities for the day are to read Confederate Virginia for a reminder about key information like the events that led to secession, the creation of West Virginia, and the major Virginia battles of the Civil War. Look closely at the map, the graphics, and the information. Be sure to notice the total population and slave population of Virginia in 1860 and why Virginia's location and resources made our state so important. We're going to then use the information to help us answer the questions on slide 6. So we're going to review. Last week, you learned the causes of the Civil War and the major battles of the war that took place in Virginia. You discovered differences between the North and South and even learned about the creation of West Virginia. After it split from West Virginia, Virginia became one of the 11 states to secede from the Union and join the Confederate States of America. Now take a look. Today we will travel back in time and take an even closer look at what else was happening in Virginia while the whole country was at war with itself. What did it mean for people in Virginia now that they lived in a Confederate state during those major battles you learned about last week? Let's find out. Examine the map, graphics, and information about Virginia below. Then answer the questions. All right, so we're going to call these speech bubbles here. This is speech bubble number 1, speech bubble number 2, speech bubble number 3, speech bubble number 4. So in speech bubble number 1, we have the total number of people. So 1,598,318. That's a huge number, guys. Virginia had the largest population out of all the Confederate states. That means more people lived there than any other Confederate state. In speech bubble number 2 down here, we learned that Virginia was at a geographic disadvantage. That means that they were not in a very good place as far as Civil War. Their location was problematic. There was a lot of trouble involved with it. Because of their location, if you look at it really closely, you see all that blue there all around it? Yeah. Well, there's red states down here, and that's the Confederate states. These blue ones were free states. They were kind of on the fence, right? But these dark blue are definite Union states. And these light blue were the ones who weren't quite sure what to do, but they were for the most part free. But because of the being right in the middle, caught in the middle between the Union and the Confederacy, this made it a place where a lot of the major battles took place. Over here in speech bubble number 3, we talk about the total number of slaves. 490,865. That is a lot of people in slavery. Virginia had almost 30,000 more slaves than any other state had. You may ask, why was that? And a large part of that is, when we talked about Jamestown in 1619, when the Africans came over, they came over against their will. So that is where the slave trade started. And that's where a lot of the slaves stayed as the plantations, the tobacco plantations took hold. Down here in speech bubble number 4, it was critical to defend Virginia since it was home to the capital of the Confederacy. Virginia was home to some of the South's most valuable resources. And we see here, we see a picture of tobacco, we see a picture of coal, and we see a picture of, these are textiles, these are materials. And of course, the textiles and materials come from cotton. So let's look at what we have to answer today for day 1. First one, we have to use subtraction to solve. In 1860, how many more total people lived in Virginia than slaves? And that is a huge math problem, guys. That's big. That's 1,598,318 minus 490,865. Now, in order to do this, I put mine in boxes. You can replicate this on your paper just by turning your paper to the side. And the reason why I did this is because we want to make sure that everything lines up. You can see here that I started the problem, and we're going to go through the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place. We're going to subtract those, and I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. You can see here I started. 8 minus 5 is free, because when we take 5 from 8, we have 3 left over. 1 minus 6. Can we take 6 tens out of 1 10? We can't do that, can we? So we're going to go over to the hundreds and see if they have any tens we can borrow to come over here and regroup. So we're going to do that. We're going to take one of the hundreds. We're going to break it into 10 tens. So that leaves us now with 2 hundreds over here. And that gives us 10 tens to bring over here and to add to our 1 10. So our 10 tens plus our 1 10 equals how many? That's right, 11. So now that 1 is not a 1, it's an 11. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this so it doesn't get confusing up here. So now 11 minus 6, we can definitely take 6 from 11. As a matter of fact, that is 5. All right, so we come back over to the hundreds place now, and we have 2 minus 8. Can we take 8 hundreds from 2 hundreds? We can't do that. So we got to go to our neighbor, and our neighbor in this case is the thousands place. We got to see if they got some hundreds we can borrow. And they do. They have 8,000. So we can take one of those thousands and turn it into 10 hundreds. So if we're going to take one of those thousands, that becomes 7 in our thousands place. We're going to take those. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Sorry, guys. Being on the computer is sometimes a little bit trickier than it would be on the actual smartboard. So like I was saying, we took that 1,000, we turned it into 10 hundreds, so that's going to be 10 plus 2. And of course, that gives us, now we have 12 hundreds over here. And we're going to go ahead and erase that up here. So 12 minus 8 is, that's right, it is 4. All right, you are going to do the rest of that on your own. I wanted to go through the regrouping and I wanted to go through the importance of stacking. So now that we're done with that, we're going to go and we're going to look at the other questions. Question number 2, why did the location of Virginia make it such a dangerous place to be during the Civil War? For this, I want you to look closely at Virginia on the map, the one that is colored with the red and the blue blue being Union states, the red being Confederate states. I want you to look at it and tell me what surrounds it. So come back over here, look at it for a second, and I think you'll be able to tell me why it was dangerous. This is in speech bubble number 2. All right, and over here, Virginia was home to the blank of the Confederacy and had valuable blank. This is fill in the blanks, and if we look at speech bubble number 4, we're going to find our answers for those blanks. So look at the speech bubble here. All right, I'm going to go back through the slides and tell you when to pause if you need to go back and review when answering your questions. If you need to look at the text, pause here. If you need to look at the map of Virginia and learn a little more about Confederate Virginia for questions 2 and 3, pause here. And if you need to look at my notes, pause here. And if you need to look back at the subtraction problem, pause here. Okay, now we're going to go to day 2. Day 2 are learning opportunities. We're going to read the roles of Native Americans during the Civil War, Part 1, to discover how the Indians responded to this war between the states. We're going to look closely at this timeline that shows several events the Native Americans experienced and the experiences that likely influenced their feelings about the Civil War. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you guys are on Google Classroom and doing the slides, I just now realized when looking at the timeline that we're missing part of it. So I'm going to read the text to you, and then I'm going to show you the whole timeline. And if you're in my class, I'll make sure that I post that, and I'm going to get a hold of your teachers as well. All right, role of Native Americans during the Civil War, Part 1. You are an expert on facts about some really important Virginians. You know of several individuals who were made famous during the Civil War. People like Harriet Tubman, Abraham Lincoln, Robert E. Lee, Nat Turner, and Ulysses S. Grant, to name a few. Now let's explore the roles that some other people played in Virginia during the Civil War. Think about Native Americans and other diverse groups of people from all over the world who lived in Virginia during the war. Even though Virginia was a Confederate state, did people's race influence how they personally felt about the fighting? We will spend the next few days discovering the roles of each people group in Virginia during the Civil War. Today we will begin our discovery by exploring the role of Native Americans. Look closely at the timelines, and tomorrow you're going to answer the questions below the table. Today, I want you to do a notice, wonder, learn. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What did you learn about the timeline? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pull it up in our packet. Bear with me. It always disappears when I do this. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to blow this up. All right, so date, December 1606, the event. 3 large ships headed for Virginia from England looking to settle on new land, but over 50 Native American nations already lived all across Virginia. The Native Americans were thriving and did not know what was going to become of their home. April 1607. Native Americans saw 3 large English ships arrive at their home, and they believed these people would be invaders who took over their land. May of 1607. About 2 weeks after the first English settlers arrived in Jamestown, Native Americans attacked the English settlers. As a result, the English built the Jamestown fort. 1607 to 1640. For miles and miles, every town along the James River was taken from the Native Americans from force, and we can see that in this map over here. Those of you in my class, when we went to Jamestown, they showed us that map at Jamestown with the Native American population. I want you to remember that. 1613. Pocahontas was kidnapped by the colonists, married an English settler, and left Virginia to travel to England. Oh, where did it go? Many were sad to see her go because she kept the peace between the Native Americans and the English for many years. 1622 and 1644. Huge attacks were made by Native Americans on English settlements in Virginia, but the population of the English settlers just kept growing. 1642 to 1677. The English population in Virginia grew from 8,000 settlers to 40,000 settlers in just 35 years. Many Virginia leaders were proud that they took over the Native Americans in their territories. 1705. The Slave Code of Virginia is written into law by the government and included unfair rules that Native Americans were forced to follow. 1754 to 1763. France and Great Britain began a war over claiming land that actually belonged to the Native Americans, and soon after drew the Native Americans into the fighting. 1775 to 1781. Well, let me scroll all the way up. Native Americans were pulled into another war, the American Revolution, and were again divided, fighting on both sides. 1861 to 1865. The Civil War was happening, and as you can imagine, the Native Americans felt they had suffered enough. This time, the Native Americans stayed out of the fighting and remained neutral. Sadly, most of their remaining land was still destroyed, and by 1890, less than 100% of Virginia's population was Native American. I want you to think on the question you'll answer tomorrow, which is, why do you think the Native Americans wished to remain neutral during the Civil War? But today, all I want you to do is a notice, wonder, learn. What did you notice about this timeline? What do you wonder about it? What did you learn? Well, guys, I hope that you found this helpful. If you need any further help on it, make sure to get a hold of your teachers. Thank you for working with me today, and remember, 4th grade, we are better together. Thanks, guys.